climate-driven monster, officially named Storm Harry by the Mediterranean Meteorological Network, has plunged Italy into a national emergency. What began as a low-pressure system over the Balearic Islands has intensified into a Medicane, Mediterranean hurricane, slamming into the Italian peninsula with a level of ferocity seldom seen in modern records. As of Tuesday evening, the Italian Civil Protection Department, Protezione Civile, has placed nearly 40% of the country under a code red alert. Meteorologists describe Storm Harry as a perfect storm, fueled by abnormally high sea surface temperatures in the Tyrrhenian Sea, which are currently 3.5 degrees Celsius, above the seasonal average. This thermal energy acted as high-octane fuel, allowing Harry to undergo rapid cyclogenesis. The storm made landfall early this morning near the coast of Livorno, Tuscany, before tracking northeast toward the Emilia-Romagna and Veneto regions. At its peak, the National Meteorological Center recorded sustained winds of 110 kilometers per hour, with gusts reaching a terrifying 135 kilometers per hour in the Apennine ridges. The region of Emilia-Romagna, still recovering from previous year's floods, has once again become the epicenter of the disaster. In less than 12 hours, the region received 250 millimeters of rain, more than the total average for the entire winter season. The Savena and Lamone rivers have breached their embankments in multiple locations, inundating residential neighborhoods. The financial capital faced a total gridlock as the Seveso River overflowed. The city's sophisticated spillway system was overwhelmed by the sheer volume of debris, causing water to pour into the Metro Line 1 stations, forcing an immediate suspension of all underground transit. Tuscany has reported the most significant structural damage. In the province of Massa Carrara, the saturated soil gave way, resulting in over 50 major landslides. The mountain simply dissolved, reported an emergency responder in the Garfagnana area. A massive mudslide buried a section of the State Road 12, effectively cutting off 3 villages from the outside world. Search and rescue teams are currently using thermal imaging drones to scan for survivors in areas where houses were swept away by rivers of mud. In Venice, the threat was twofold: torrential rain from the sky and a massive storm surge from the Adriatic. The MOSE, Modulo Sperimentale Elettromeccanico barrier system, was raised at all 3 lagoon inlets to combat a projected tide of 165 centimeters, one of the highest in the city's history. While the barriers successfully kept the Adriatic out, the city faced internal flooding, as the heavy rainfall had nowhere to drain, highlighting a new challenge for the floating city: how to manage extreme precipitation when the sea gates are closed. The Autostrada del Sole, A1, the main artery connecting North and South Italy, has been closed at several points due to flooding. Over 200 flights at Malpensa and Fiumicino airports were canceled or diverted. The national grid operator, Terna, reports that 120,000 households are currently without electricity as falling trees have downed high-voltage lines. The Po Valley, Italy's agricultural breadbasket, is underwater. Thousands of hectares of winter crops have been destroyed, which experts warn will lead to a spike in food prices across the Eurozone. Environmental scientists argue that Storm Harry is a direct consequence of the tropicalization of the Mediterranean. Dr. Luca Mercalli, a prominent climatologist, stated, "We can no longer call these extraordinary events. When the sea remains this warm in January, the atmosphere has an enormous capacity to hold water. Harry is the face of the climate crisis in 2026. The Department of Civil Protection warns that the danger is far from over. A second wave of Storm Harry is expected to swing back toward the Lazio and Campania regions by tomorrow morning. Residents in Rome and Naples are advised to secure loose objects, stay away from trees, and avoid travel unless absolutely necessary. For real-time updates, residents are urged to check the official portal of the Italian Civil Protection and follow the instructions of local mayors, sindaci, who have the authority to order mandatory evacuations. Meanwhile, the island of Sicily is currently grappling with the catastrophic aftermath of Storm Harry, a violent Mediterranean cyclone that has transformed the picturesque landscape into a zone of emergency. Characterized by extreme red-level alerts, the storm has brought record-shattering rainfall, hurricane-force winds, and massive storm surges, leaving the island's infrastructure in tatters and its population in a state of shock. Storm Harry intensified rapidly over the warm waters of the Ionian Sea throughout the weekend. Meteorologists from the Aeronautica Militare, Italian Air Force Weather Service, classified Harry as a Medicane, a Mediterranean hurricane, due to its distinct eye wall and warm core characteristics. By the time it made landfall on Sicily's eastern coast early this morning, it was packing sustained winds of 125 kilometers per hour, with isolated gusts near Syracuse reaching a staggering 150 kilometers per hour. The primary driver behind Harry's ferocity has been the anomalous sea surface temperatures, which in early 2026 are nearly 4 degrees Celsius above historical averages. This provided the latent heat necessary to turn a standard low-pressure system into a destructive atmospheric engine. The city of Catania has emerged as the epicenter of the disaster. In a period of just 6 hours, the city recorded 350 millimeters of rain, nearly half of its annual average. The volcanic soil of Mount Etna, unable to absorb the deluge, channeled water down into the urban centers. The historic Via Etnea was transformed into a raging river, with floodwaters reaching depths of 1.5 meters. Hundreds of vehicles were swept away, piled against the facades of Baroque buildings. Catania International Airport, CTA, has been shuttered indefinitely after the runways were submerged. Officials report that several aircraft on the tarmac sustained damage from wind-blown debris. Massive waves exceeding 6 meters breached the harbor breakwaters, sinking dozens of fishing vessels and damaging the commercial pier. To the south, the provinces of Syracuse, Siracusa, and Ragusa have faced the brunt of the wind damage. The ancient island of Ortigia saw significant coastal erosion, with seawater flooding historic palazzos and shops. In the rural areas of the Noto Valley, the agricultural sector has been decimated. "We have lost 80% of our citrus groves," said a local farmer. "The wind stripped the trees bare, and the floods have rotted the roots. It will take a decade to recover." Over 2,000 rescues. Emergency services, supported by the Italian Army, Esercito Italiano, have utilized amphibious vehicles and helicopters to winch residents from the rooftops of their homes. Storm Harry has effectively severed the island's connection to the mainland and its own internal networks. Roughly 180,000 households are currently without electricity. High-voltage pylons near the Semedo River were toppled by landslides. The railway line connecting Messina, Catania, and Syracuse is suspended due to track washouts. The A18 motorway has been closed at multiple points due to the risk of further landslides from the Peloritani Mountains. Mobile networks are intermittent across the island, complicating rescue efforts and preventing families from confirming their safety. Governor of Sicily, Renato Schifani, has formally requested a state of national emergency from Rome. Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni is expected to visit the island tomorrow morning to oversee the distribution of the first wave of emergency funds. Sicily is on its knees, but it is not defeated, Governor Schifani stated during a candlelit press conference in Palermo. "We are asking for the full support of the European Union Solidarity Fund. The scale of this destruction exceeds the capacity of any single region." The Italian Red Cross has established emergency shelters in sports arenas and schools, providing food, blankets, and psychological support to the thousands who have lost their homes. Environmentalists and climate scientists warn that Storm Harry is a harbinger of a new climate era for the Mediterranean. The increasing frequency of Medicanes poses a systemic threat to the historic coastal cities of Italy, Greece, and North Africa. Experts emphasize that the 2026 storm season is proving to be the most volatile on record, necessitating a massive investment in flood defenses and climate-resilient infrastructure. Meanwhile, The Maltese Islands are currently enduring one of the most violent meteorological events in their modern history. Storm Harry, a powerful Mediterranean hurricane, made a direct hit on the archipelago in the early hours of Tuesday, bringing the nation to a complete standstill. With wind gusts exceeding 145 kilometers per hour and waves reaching heights of 8 meters, the government has declared a national state of emergency, urging all citizens to remain indoors. Storm Harry evolved from a deep, low-pressure system that intensified rapidly over the warm waters between Libya and Sicily. Due to record-breaking sea temperatures in early 2026, the storm underwent bombogenesis, a process where central pressure drops at least 24 millibars in 24 hours. By the time the eye of the storm passed just 30 kilometers off the coast of Gozo, Harry exhibited a classic tropical structure. The Malta International Airport Met Office recorded a peak gust of 78 knots, 144.5 kilometers per hour, at Lucca, surpassing the record set by the infamous February storm of 2019. The northeastern coastline of Malta bore the brunt of the storm surge. The iconic promenades of Sliema and St. Julian's were completely overwhelmed by the sea. A significant section of the Sliema promenade collapsed into the sea near Gadir after sustained pounding from 8-meter waves. In Gadira Bay, several yachts and pleasure craft broke their moorings, ending up smashed against the rocks or pushed onto the main road. Seawater reached several blocks inland in Gira, flooding ground floor apartments and businesses with a mixture of salt water and debris. The island's infrastructure has been pushed to its breaking point. Enel Malta, the national energy provider, reported widespread blackouts across Malta and Gozo after flying debris and fallen trees down several high-voltage overhead lines. Approximately 60% of the country was without power at the height of the storm. While the interconnector to Sicily remained functional, localized damage to the distribution network prevented power from reaching homes in Mosta, Nexar, and Rabat. The 3 main desalination, reverse osmosis plants were briefly powered down as a precautionary measure due to extreme turbidity in the seawater, leading to reports of low water pressure in several localities. Several mobile towers in Gozo were damaged, leading to significant telecommunication outages in Victoria and Zagra. The Civil Protection Department, CPD, and the Armed Forces of Malta, AFM, have been working tirelessly in life-threatening conditions. The Ministry of Health has confirmed 2 fatalities. One individual was struck by a falling tree in Takali, and another was swept away by a rogue wave while attempting to secure a vessel in Magar, Gozo. The AFM launched a daring helicopter rescue to airlift 3 crew members from a small cargo ship that lost engine power and was drifting dangerously close to the Dragonara cliffs. Residents in low-lying areas of Mesita and Marsaskala were evacuated early this morning as floodwaters turned streets into treacherous rivers. Our priority is the protection of life. The damage to our infrastructure is severe, but the resilience of the Maltese people is stronger. We have activated the National Emergency Fund and are in contact with the European Commission for Disaster Relief Assistance. Meanwhile, as of 8 p.m. local time, the official death toll across Italy stands at 14 confirmed fatalities, with officials warning that this number is expected to rise as search and rescue teams gain access to previously cut-off mountainous zones. The hardest-hit region reported 6 deaths. In the province of Massa Carrara, a massive landslide buried a residential villa, claiming the lives of a family of 3, including a 7-year-old child. In Prato, a man in his 50s drowned after his vehicle was trapped in a rapidly flooding underpass. 2 fatalities were confirmed in the Belluno area, where hurricane-force winds uprooted thousands of trees. One victim was struck by a falling larch tree while attempting to secure his property, while another died when a roof section collapsed on a farmhouse. In Catania, a 42-year-old woman was swept away by a flash flood, a phenomenon locals call lava di fango, mud lava, while she was trying to exit her stalled car on the highway. Two elderly residents in Faenza died of hypothermia and drowning after their ground floor apartment was submerged by the overflowing Lamone River before rescuers could reach them. Storm Harry has rewritten the record books of Italian meteorological history, but its true legacy will be measured in the empty chairs at family tables and the long road to recovery for the thousands who have seen their livelihoods washed away. As the rain finally begins to subside, the silence that follows is one of mourning and immense challenge.